and welcome to episode 4 of How I Take Notes miniseries. I'm not sure if you remember, but a few months ago I started a note-taking miniseries on YouTube, but I never posted the last episode because I didn't like how it turned out. After refilming this video multiple times, it's finally here, and today I'll be sharing my top 10 tips for note-taking that'll help you improve your notes, since the more effective your notes are, the easier and quicker it'll be to memorize them. Also, this is a series, so there are 3 more episodes you can check out before this one, and if you haven't seen them yet, I'll link the playlist up in the eye and in the description box, so you can watch them in the right order. And with that being said, let's get started with the video. The first tip I have for note-taking is to color code your notes by chapters. It basically means that for every new chapter you pick a color and stick to that color for the entire chapter. This is a great way to keep all your notes organized, since when you're flipping through your notes, it'll be much easier to find whatever you need. I like to go a step further and I use sticky tabs to organize everything. I match them with my color theme and I stick one at the beginning of every chapter. This way I don't have to flip through my notes. I can easily use the tabs to navigate and find whatever I'm looking for, and everything is super neat and organized. My next tip is to use symbols and abbreviations. At the beginning of every notebook, I like to make a key page where I write down abbreviations, symbols, and everything like that I'll be using throughout the notebook. This is inspired by the key page in the beginning of bullet journals. If you've ever had one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, let me bring a few examples of symbols and abbreviations I'm talking about. Bullet points in my notes mean extra information, arrows mean examples, and exclamation points mean questions that are likely to come up on tests. A few basic examples of abbreviations would be writing max instead of maximum and min instead of minimum. If you need to take notes even faster during class, then a great way to do that is to assign symbols to words. There are multiple examples on the screen, but my favorite one is putting a / instead of writing the difference between. At first, it may feel like all these things are making your notes more complicated. However, if you've ever had a teacher who talks way too fast, then you'll know that a couple of seconds is all you need to keep up with your lecture. Tip number 3 is to make things visual. In textbooks, the information is provided to us in paragraphs, and more often than not, we end up writing notes in paragraphs as well. However, that's not very effective. Instead, you should always try to convert the information from your textbooks into another layout, like a diagram or a mind map. The reason for this is because your visual memory is 3 times stronger and faster than your verbal one. That means whenever you take notes in paragraphs, you are potentially increasing your study sessions by 3 times. And I'm assuming you have better things to do than studying for 3 times longer than you actually need to. My next tip goes along with the last one and is kind of a variation, and that is using the sequence method. A lot of the time you need to memorize a sequence of things or things in a specific order, and to do that you can change the layout of your notes. For example, when studying history, I usually like to draw a timeline and then take notes that way. Because my notes are specifically focused on the timeline, it's much easier to remember the sequence of events. The same thing goes for other subjects. If you need to remember a certain number of things or steps, then make sure that they are separate from one another and really emphasize those steps or numbers. It'll be much easier to memorize everything this way than if everything was jumbled together in one entire paragraph. A great way to spice up your notes is to add fancy headers, titles, and stuff like that. I get DMs and comments from you guys all the time telling me that you don't like your notes, they don't look neat or pretty, so you're not inspired to study. Well, first of all, your goal should be to make effective notes, not pretty notes, but second of all, a great way to make them prettier and neater is to add these titles and cool things, headers, whatever they're called. Now, at first they may seem super complicated, but if you try to do them a few times, you'll realize that they are super simple to do and only take a few extra seconds. And on this note, please let me know in the comments down below if you guys would like to see a video on tips to improve your handwriting. I know that I'm not one of those people who have a handwriting that looks like a font, but it was illegible a few years ago and super ugly, and I've made a lot of progress. So I'd love to share some of my tips with you guys. So if you're interested, drop a comment down below and let me know. My next tip is to add a margin to your notes. This wouldn't be great for every subject, but sometimes you could really use the extra space and add examples, extra notes, formulas, questions, things like that to your notes. So if you constantly have sticky notes with extra information on top of your notes, then consider having a margin instead, since that'll be a better way to organize everything. Including visual elements into your notes is a great way to make them more effective. Sometimes we think that copying a diagram or a chart from our textbook into our notes is useless since we already have this in our textbook. However, redrawing those charts or diagrams can really help you understand the information better, and usually you're using your notes to study everything, so it's great to have them in your notes as well. So going back to the best tip of today's video, include as many visual elements as possible. Especially if you're good at drawing, you have no excuse not to do that. Moving on to the next tip, which is to draw attention with color. A great way to do this is to write important terms with colored pens, or draw boxes around formulas, highlight and underline things. A tip I have here is to only add color to specific words, because highlighting paragraphs or every second word doesn't make things effective and instead just is a waste of your time and stationery supplies. My next tip is to make summary notes. This is something I try to do as much as possible in my own note-taking process because it first of all helps you remember the information better, and also it's so much easier to revise for tests, exams, and quizzes since you don't have to go through all your notes. Instead, you have all the key information right in front of you. Another thing is that since these summary notes are quite short, you can also make them prettier and aesthetically pleasing, so that's another thing to consider. My next tip is to use post-it notes for questions. If you're anything like me, then you have a large collection of sticky notes of different colors and sizes, and here are a few ideas to take advantage of them. You can write down any questions that have come up while studying to ask the teacher, or any questions the teacher asks really frequently since they're likely to come up on tests. You can also use these to add extra relevant information that you don't want to be permanent in your notes, since sticky notes are a great way to do that. Before we wrap up the video, let me know in the comments down below what is your favorite day of the week. So for me, it probably has to be Wednesday. I'm not exactly sure why, but Wednesdays tend to be the best days in my entire week. So I love them, and there's that. Also, if you've watched till the end of this video, I'm assuming that you liked it. So if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe and turn on your notifications down below so you never miss a future video. I'd also really appreciate your feedback on this video, so rate my video down below with a like or a dislike to let me know how you felt about it. Also, if you have any suggestions on how I can improve my videos, then drop them in the comments down below. They are welcome and much appreciated. If you want to see extra content from me, get daily study inspiration, participate in polls, quizzes, questions, and chat with me, then come join me over on Instagram. It's at Kelley Studies. I really hope to see you over on there. But anyways, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you super soon with another video. Bye!